Well, I want to thank you for being here, Chase. Thanks so much for making the time to be with us today. And our audience would be our missionary friends, different ones that are out there serving the Lord. And so we want to give them words of encouragement, maybe ideas, maybe different things that God will use in their life. Just last Friday, we have a missions class every Friday. Last Friday, you shared several different key points on learning a language. And right now, that's what you're doing. You kind of grew up in South Africa, but you are learning a new language and new culture. And so I want to ask you today, maybe if you would, maybe we could talk through some of those different things. So why don't you begin sharing, maybe introduce yourself first, and then begin sharing those different goals, those different points, nuggets that you have on learning a language.
Absolutely. So my name is Chase Southard. I'm learning the Xhosa language. I've been doing so for the past few months, and I wouldn't say that I'm a veteran at it. Of course, I'm still learning, but I wrote down some points that I've learned along the way, and I just start by saying that you gotta set realistic goals whenever learning a language.
Right.
You can't shoot for sky high and expect to learn the language in 2 months.
Right.
That's just not how language works. But I wrote down some things here. As you begin learning the language, you gotta realize that every language is different, but the key principles are pretty much the same.
Right.
Whenever it comes to learning it. You gotta be consistent in learning the language. You gotta be consistent when practicing the language. If you're just doing it every other day or every couple of days, it's gonna be a lot harder to learn the language. Should you practice every day, 8 hours a day? And I always say, just keep swimming, just keep showing up, just keep going, just keep practicing. There's gonna be times that you don't feel like it. There's gonna be times that people are laughing at you, and you really just want to go home. Along with culture shock, there's a lot of things going on the mission field that might hinder you from wanting to practice the language.
Right.
Especially in South Africa, there's a dynamic of the colonial language being English. So it could be very easy for you to live life without actually learning Xhosa. But if you want to reach the majority of the people, it's a necessary thing to do.
Chase, allow me to stop you there. The realistic goals, I think that's a very important key point here, because it's not necessarily, and sometimes we play the comparison game of, well, man, if I was learning this language, I could probably do it. Afrikaans would be a lot easier for you to learn. They say I saw a scale of languages for English speakers to learn, and they have green, yellow, red, and they say in the green, and some of those were Afrikaans and German for an English speaker. And so then you have the Romantic language, Italian and Portuguese and Spanish. But anyway, they would go through those. And as you go through those, it said, you could learn it in a shorter amount of time, the yellow. But the goal was through that is you could still learn them. So you can't learn all of them maybe in 6 months, but you still can learn them. So the realistic goal, I think, as you mentioned, you're not going to learn it in 2 months. Let's not be silly. You'll never learn it without having an accent or speaking perfect, And there might be somebody out there, but we don't know them, And so that realistic goals, I think you're right, because if we set unrealistic goals, we set ourselves up for failure, and then we're just ready to throw in the towel and quit, right?
Sure.
And so continue on. I just wanted to throw that in there because there are different levels, and some literally are harder than others. And
Sure.
I don't know where scale-wise yours is, but I know, any language that's not your language is a difficult language.
That's it.
And so it's not so easy to get. But, keep on, as you said, keep on swimming, keep on learning, right?
Yes, sir. And just a little practical thing. I remember when we first got to South Africa and we started trying to learn the language, my wife would come home very frustrated. She's doing an amazing job, by the way. She's going to learn it way better than I am. But she came home like the second day that we were there, and she's mad that she didn't learn 10 sentences. I'm like, you're trying to go with 10 sentences. I'm like, I'm trying to go for 2 words today.
We're going with survival.
Yeah, that's it. But I guess that goal that she wanted brought frustration because it wasn't a realistic goal. And so that's the importance of trying to set those realistic goals. But just keep going out and practicing, keep talking. When culture shock hits you, you want to stay quiet with when people are laughing at you, but just force yourself out of the bubble. That's the biggest thing for me, at least, is not to just close up. Another thing that I said is to be intentional about being with the locals. Almost every mission field that I've been to, there's been a bunch of other missionaries somewhere within the city.
Sure.
And so if you're not careful, you can go and be attracted to other people because they're Americans like you, You want to be around people that understand your culture. Right. But if you do that, it's going to hinder you from actually learning the culture and actually learning the language. You got to be intentional to be with the locals as much as possible. Also, be patient. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with others. Culture shock really does hit you, and it makes you want to criticize everything in the world.
Sure.
But if you're patient enough, you realize that there's some really cool things about the language and about the culture. Something that I told some people that's really cool about the Xhosa language is they don't say boil water. Instead, they actually say make the water sweat. And it's actually, it's kind of cool
good, yeah.
To see stuff like that. But don't be too hard on yourself if you make mistakes in the culture and in the language. If these people really know that you care, then they're not gonna be super offended by it.
Sure.
I tell people just be a goldfish whenever this stuff happens, because a goldfish only has a 30-second memory span, and so if you mess up, just 30 seconds later, just forget it and just keep going. Just push forward. That's really helped me because I'm a talker. I mess up all the time in the culture, but the guys know that I really do care about them. I care about getting the gospel to the people.
Good.
And so they're very gracious with me and patient with me. Now I will say the accent I think is very important, especially in the Xhosa language. This is probably argumentative, but at least in the Xhosa language, I've had people say, either learn the accent or don't learn it at all. Because especially I think with tonal languages as well, which there's a specific, art form to the tone in Xhosa. It's really important because if you don't speak it like that, it could mean another language. Another word.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
For sure.
I wouldn't practice this with you right now because I'd probably mess it up and get called out. But the accent is very, very important. So don't push that aside, but try to work on that.
And how have you learned accent, Chase? I think that's a very good point. Now, we might never become perfect in a language, but we could do that through mimicking, right? Mm-hmm. And so what are some ways that you've worked on your accent to help maybe whoever's listening? We've got people that are learning all kinds of different languages, so they're unique, but
Sure.
How can they learn that accent?
I took some phonetics classes in the training center that really helped me, as well as on my 6-month internship in Peru, South America.
Okay.
And they really helped me focus with my vowels. I think that's one of the biggest things that's different between English and other languages,
Sure.
because an A is not just an ah, it's an ah. And we just move our mouth up and down, but and I Spanish, so you kind of lock your jaw a little bit more than you would in English. But take some phonetics classes. Ask the locals, ask the nationals how to actually pronounce it, and go over it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And even then, you're probably still not going to sound like them. But if you practice it, perfect practice makes perfect. And so just keep practicing, keep trying to do that.
Yeah, I think I would certainly not know your language in others, but the little that I know in Spanish, it would be the vowels. And if you, the A, E, I, O, U, and if you say those over and over, and so I think that's helpful for whatever language you'd be learning. But I think there's also a mimicking, and that's what kids do, right? I mean, they might say things that parents do. They might repeat, whether it's political slogans or whatever it is, until it becomes their own. And if we mimic a lot of what's going on, we sound just like them, or we're attempting to sound just like them, and that helps in a lot of ways. Later you get your own way, but it only comes through that. They learn that from their parents. So mimicking is a big deal, and I think you're right. I think work on that accent. A lot of American speakers, maybe you had Spanish or French through high school, and then you get somewhere and you're like, they don't speak the same way. No, they speak the same way. The way you read it in a textbook and the way it sounds is totally different. And so work on that accent part. I agree with that.
No, that's good. I remember my little sister Addison. She used to say, with Fwigelwater. And, it's cute at the very beginning.
Right.
But after a while, you're like, hey, say it right. It's refrigerator. And that's what's going to happen in language learning.
Sure. Yep,
At
you're
first,
right.
you're going to say something silly. And then later on, they're going to tell you.
It's not so silly.
Yeah, it's not so silly. Stop saying it like that.
Yeah.
And you'll just get better by then. So
Good. What else we got?
So I also said, you're gonna, at least with Vision Baptist Missions, we're gonna be under a veteran missionary, and whenever that happens, I wanna ask you guys just to continue listening to the lead missionary. Do whatever he says. He's been through what you're going through right now, and so try to do that. Be a learner in every way, and try to be as teachable as possible. Ask the missionaries questions. Ask the locals questions about the culture. Ask them if you're saying stuff right. Because a lot of cultures I know, they're very nice and they don't want to offend you. So if you say something wrong, they might not necessarily correct you until you say, hey, please help me. And I know that that's helped me go a long way. But the last thing I think I'd say is just make the country your home. Yeah, this is a big thing. I know I grew up in South Africa, but I could have easily chosen to make it a lot worse for me. I could have said, I've been in the States for 13 years. I don't want to be here in South Africa. But if you do that, then you're not gonna stay on the field very long.
Sure.
You're gonna leave. I've seen many missionaries leave the country of South Africa, just simply because they didn't make it their home. They didn't push to learn the cultures, as it's so diverse there. But if you see South Africa as your home, then it's not just gonna be a temporary dwelling place where you're just getting the gospel and leaving. That's where you're gonna want to go. Yeah. Right now, I'm here in the States recording this with you, but I long to get back to South Africa, and it's because it's my home.
Sure.
My wife, she calls it home now too.
Good.
And I love that. But when you make it your home, you're going to stop counting the days to where you're coming back to the States on a furlough. You'll begin to make friends in the language. Culture shock will begin to fade because it's not just in another culture. This is beginning to be your culture. Amen. So just learn to deal with that stuff and make the country your home.
So, Chase, you said a whole lot of things about language. The very last thing that you said specifically is make that your home. And so we only have a couple more minutes before I want to conclude this episode. Maybe in the last couple minutes, maybe you could tell us some practical ways that you and your wife have made it home for you. How have you helped your wife make it home? How has she made it home for her? How do you get in that mentality? Because that would be the goal of a missionary. Of course, they want to, and I don't think that anybody that leaves maybe prematurely would want to leave or even plan to leave. Nevertheless, that can happen if we're very disgruntled. So, how do we make that our home where God has placed us?
Sure. You can have a couch and a bed. Any country that you want.
Sure.
So that doesn't necessarily make something a home. But I believe that it's the relationships that you make. Right. Because if you don't have any friends, you're not going to want to be there. At least I won't. I base everything around my relationships. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but I just remember my wife trying to make friends. And so that's the biggest thing. I mean, we've got practical things like we now have our favorite restaurant, our favorite coffee shop, and stuff like that. Yeah. But the biggest thing is just making those friends. Yeah. Getting out of your comfort zone. Because my wife, she texts people right now, texting her friends, and they're like, "We miss you. We can't wait for you to get back. You were supposed to get back Tuesday." And that really makes you want to go back. Sure. A coffee shop doesn't want to make you go to another country necessarily and stay there. But friends will. Yeah, amen. Mm-hmm.
Well, there'll be a lot of those different things. I've heard a study that why people, and it's changed throughout the years, interesting enough, a study of why people belong or stay at a specific church. Some would say maybe because of a pastor, the preaching. Some would say because of their friends there. Some would say because of the group that they're in, maybe the life group, the Sunday school class or whatever. Some would say there's a lot of different reasons, but I think it's each one of those are small roots that are put in so that when you pull up the entire plant, there's roots on this side for the preaching, roots on this side. Well, the same thing. So if you find the benefits of your country, cheaper ice cream or better coffee or, and I've got my friends that are there, that's another root. And then, man, we love our house that's there. That's another root. Now, not one of those things are going to keep you there, but all those things together will help you feel comfortable. I used to tell my wife, we moved from being in college together in Tennessee, we moved down to Georgia, and we stayed in Georgia, did our deputation here. And from Georgia, we moved to Peru, and from Peru to Argentina, and now we serve in the U.S. And I told my wife, wherever I've got sweet tea, chocolate chip cookies, and you, my wife, I said, those three things, I'm fine. I don't care where we're at. You know, the brick and mortar can be absolutely anywhere. I don't really care. But as we're wherever God has placed us, we find other things that become part of our root system. And those roots help us to thrive where God has planted us.
Sure.
And so you're now thriving where God has planted. And that's a beautiful thing. Your wife is happy. You are happy. You have a house, you have a place, you have friends. And I think wherever God puts any of us, we can thrive. We can lay down a whole lot of the root system, and we can better serve the Lord where God has placed us. And when we're happy where God has placed us, we seem to do ministry better and life better and marriage better, and everything seems to go a lot better. So, Chase, I appreciate your time. We need to close out this segment. We'll continue another one later. But I appreciate you very much, appreciate your wife, and I appreciate what God is doing through you in South Africa.
Thank you, Jeff.